Okay guys, welcome back to Smart Dog School's Fix Your Dog in 30 Days program. Guys, today is going to be the absolute most important video of the entire program. So after you've watched this video, I encourage you, go back and watch it once, maybe twice, and share it with your family, because the two concepts that we're going to go over today, guys, are invaluable to working with dogs, working with cats, working with people, working with zoo animals. It doesn't matter what type of, whether you're working with a human or an animal at all, the two concepts we're going to go over here today are going to make or break your training. There was a quote a long time ago, and I always share it, that motivation was the key to training. As a matter of fact, the quote was, no motivation, no training. So the concept number one we're going to go over today is called motivation. Concept number two we're going to go over today is called consequences, guys. So motivation and consequences fuels training. The motivation's actually pretty simple to understand, but a lot of times we forget about it, because when we hear what we're motivated to do, we always want to think about what we're motivated to get. So what's in it for us? The whole wiffle mentality, what's in it for me? That's, kids understand it, adults understand it. Heck, it's why we go to work in the morning, right? But motivation has another side to it as well. We are also motivated not by just what we can acquire, we're also motivated by what we can avoid. So things that we don't like. Think about things you do when you're on your way to work. You avoid accidents, you avoid getting tickets, you go to the speed limit, you probably avoid, your boss yelling at you, so you want to get there on time, or possibly losing your job. These are things that you fear. So fear is a concept, actually is an aspect of training. And without fear, why would you never not do something? Okay? Why would you ever avoid anything if you weren't fearful of the consequence that comes after whatever it is that you do? So that's where consequences come in at. So I want to capitalize on this fear moment for just a second, because when we say fear, a lot of times when we're talking about dog training, like, I don't want my dog to be fearful of anything. Well, frankly, guys, I don't want your dog to be fearful of anything either, but if they're not fearful of anything, why would they ever avoid anything? Why would they ever not do something? Why would they ever not jump on your guests? Why would they ever not bite your neighbors? They have to be fearful of certain things, but I don't want them to be fearful of you. I don't want them to be fearful of your home. I don't want them to be fearful of people. That's where this training comes in at. This concept of training has to balance both motivation with acquisition and avoidance. It also has to balance an understanding of consequences, of what's good and bad. Now, granted, a lot of times when I say the word consequences, a lot of people, actually probably 95% of people out there, are going to go, consequences, that's bad. Meaning that consequences are always things you want to work to avoid. So negative consequences. Well, when we say motivation, people think motivation, that's good. What's in it for me? And when we say consequences, people say bad. What can I avoid? That's where this mentality has to change a little bit when we're talking about dog training, because my trainer's going to work with you guys, and we have to customize things for you and your family. So our biggest goal to start with is to find out what your dog likes and dislikes, what they're willing to work for, what they're willing to work to avoid, and what you and your family like and dislike, what you're willing to work for and what you're willing to work to avoid, and we have to pair them together. Now, I know that may sound like we're being counselors, family counselors, but in reality, we're being a counselor for you and your pet. So what we're trying to do is merge you with your family and you with your pet to say, you know what? Your pet has to understand what you like and dislike, so that they can avoid what you dislike and go after what you like, and so that you guys can live a long and happy life together, and you can get the pet you're looking for. So let's talk about the two motivational keys, the acquisition avoidance, and let's talk about consequences, things that, consequences that are good that the animal likes, and consequences that are bad the animal does not like. So I've put a little cheat sheet down below. I don't know if you can see that or not, but this cheat sheet, you can click on the link and you'll get the whole thing. But it talks about acquisition and avoidance. So to put it bluntly, if you like something in your life, if you enjoy something, you get something that you really, really want, whatever you did right before you did that, so whatever you were doing before you got it, you're going to be more probable, I should say, to do that in the future. So if you're walking down the street and I don't know, you find a $20 bill on the side of the curb, right? I would almost guarantee that it would increase the probability that you're going to look down at that location again the next time you pass it, at least for a little while, okay? All that did was increase the probability that you'll do a behavior. You'll look at the ground in that particular context, okay? Likewise, if you're walking down the street and you trip over, I don't know, a tripwire, you know, there's a string or whatever, and you fall over, let's say a crack in the street, a curb, whatever. I would almost guarantee that it would increase the probability you'll look down, but it also increases, well, I shouldn't say it's going to decrease the probability you're going to walk through there, but it probably would if you hurt yourself. So if you tripped and fell and hurt yourself, it's probably going to decrease the probability you'll walk in that area again, or at least walk in that area without looking, okay? So what you did is you created a level of fear of falling while you're walking in that particular context. Do you see how these two things go together? So most clients, when they call Smart Dog School, it's all about, you know, I want to get rid of unwanted behaviors. I want to decrease the probability that my dog will bite my neighbors, or my dog will bark at the mailman, or dart out the door when I open, or pee on the carpet, or whatever the case may be. But all of these behaviors have to go down in probability, and the only way to do that is through one of these areas of motivation, and it's going to be the avoidance motivation. If we have to create avoidance, likewise, we have to create a level of fear that the dog is willing to work to avoid. And there's a word for that, guys, and the word no one ever wants to say, but I'm going to say it here on this video, and I'm going to basically make devilify it, I guess that's a word. I will make it not sound as bad, but there's no way to, because frankly, if you like doing this, there's a problem somewhere. You should never like doing it, but it is necessary for training, okay? The word is punishment, guys. Punishment in a training concept just simply means making a behavior less likely or improbable that it can occur in the future. So all you're doing is adding something to an equation or subtracting, depending on which one you do, and it's gonna decrease the probability that the dog's going to do it again. So the dog has to not necessarily like it, okay? Work to avoid. That's punishment. Now, we all know the opposite of punishment is reinforcement, right? Or rewards. That's the acquisition side of this. So we can give things to dogs all day long to increase the chances they'll do something again. Give them a treat when they sit, pet them when they're quiet, things like that. That's going to increase the probability that they're going to do that again in the future, especially for that person in that context. We also have to balance out the avoidance side of it. So yes, there has to be both of these. And during the Fix Your Dog in 30-Day program, we're going to teach you how to do both of these appropriately. That's kind of the trick to training, is being able to control the rewards and reinforcement, and also being able to control the punishment, the avoidance side of it, because both of those have one word, and it's called consequences. A consequence is simply something that occurs after a behavior. If the person, dog, whatever you're training, likes what happens after they do something, they just increase the chances they'll do it again. If they don't like it, you just decrease the chances they'll do it again. That's reinforcement and punishment. To put it bluntly, I was asked one time on stage a long time ago, and it said, I was giving a presentation, and they said, what exactly is dog training? And I had heard this before a long time ago, and I put it in my own words, of course, and I said, you know what? Dog training is just controlling consequences to change the probability of future behaviors. Now that may sound geeky and technical, but that's all it is. So if a dog trainer, or you, or whoever's working with the dog, can control the consequence, that's what happens after the behavior, they can increase or decrease the probability that the dog will do it again in the future, okay? There was something else that was asked a long time ago that really hammered home this concept of motivation and controlling the consequences. And it was somebody that asked the question, like, what makes, assuming a dog is trained, right? What makes a trained dog sit? And there was a bunch of people answer the question. They said, oh, if it's a trained dog, because you told it to, the command, whatever you said to them that encouraged them to do that, motivated to do that. And they're close to being right, because it is about motivation. But frankly, what made him or her do it was the past reinforcement or punishment history. So the consequences they've had up until that moment either increased or decreases the chances that they'll do it. So think about motivation and consequences on a scale. Okay, so every time your dog gets the ability to do a behavior that they like to do, you just increase the chances, because we let it happen, that they'll do it again in the future. Now, granted, I'm not saying you let bad behaviors happen. I know that a lot of bad behaviors do, and you don't know how to stop them, but we'll get into that kind of later in training. But every time they get a chance to do something they like, run out the door, jump on people, whatever they're doing, because remember guys, dogs are simple. They're not going to do things twice if it didn't work the first time. They're just really simple when it comes to that. So every time they get a chance to do it, they're just putting a stone on that side of the scale that weighs down the probability that they'll do it again in the future. Every time they get a chance, or every time you prevent it from happening, they don't get a chance to do it, you're decreasing the chances. Or if you make it unpleasant or they don't enjoy doing it, you just decrease the chances again. So what this really boils down to is acquisition and avoidance, things that your dog will like or work for, and things that your dog don't like and will work to avoid. And we think about it in the form of consequences. What happened after the dog did it? Did they like it? That's a positive consequence. What happened after the dog did it? Did they not like it? That's a negative consequence. This is how we are going to control, well, I shouldn't say control. This is how we're going to communicate with the dog and increase and decrease the chances that they'll do what you like and decrease the chance they won't do what you don't like. I hope all that makes sense, and I tried to really lay it out for you guys, but go back and watch this video a couple times, and if you have questions, I'll be more than happy to help you. Don't forget about the cheat sheet, and I hope to see you on the training floor. So enjoy your dog. See ya.